So hi, welcome back to the Website Success Show. Today we're diving into a website SEO audit for my lovely friend Clare from nourishnurtureknit.com. So by the end of this episode, hopefully we'll have identified some quick wins for Clare's website. So welcome, Clare. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
So before we start, a question that I always ask on these episodes: if we were to meet in 6 months' time and you were telling me about the amazing things happening in your business, how would your website be helping with that?
So I guess the amazing things that I'm hoping for is to grow my membership. So, and the way that I would love my website to help with that is for people to be searching for mindfulness, knitting projects, wellness practices, those kinds of things, and for Google to be showing them, or AI to be showing them my site, and then they click through and discover my membership.
Fantastic.
So yeah, more website visits, more members,
More showing up in search.
showing up in search.
Fantastic. That sounds good. So before we start, tell us a little bit about your business and how your website currently sits within your sort of marketing activities.
I am all about supporting women to avoid or recover from burnout, or to simply create a more mindful, slow-paced and aligned intentional way of living using food, self-care and knitting as the sort of tools that will help them to get there. And my website at the moment is a pretty
be kind to yourself here, Clare.
page that doesn't necessarily articulate very well what I do.
Okay.
Or who it's. I think I'm kind of getting there, but it's evolving.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'd really love is to hone in on who I'm attracting, what I'm offering, how I'm delivering it, and get all the SEO in place for that to happen. Okay. And at the moment, I've got bits of it.
Okay.
So I want my website to be the primary place that people find me, because I don't really do any social media. And I love your message, social media is optional. That felt really aligned to the way that I want to run my business and show up in the world.
Yeah.
And I'd love people to be searching for what they want and need and finding my website.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds like a good plan, really, to have that happening. And I think the whole social media is optional part of this, I think, really fits with what you're trying to do and with what people, it will help people who are coming to join your membership, I think, as well, really. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen and we'll have a little look at your website. Okay, so you've done some work on your SEO. I know you've been working on your messaging. You're a Website Growth Club member, so you have been working on this. But probably one thing to mention in terms of you actually being kind to yourself as well is the fact that you also have an employed job to do as well. So you don't necessarily get as much time to work on your website as you would if you were just working in your business. So I think there's definitely that to bear in mind, really, that you're not where you want to be, but you've not necessarily had a massive amount of time to sort of focus on it, really. So let's have a little look at your website. So it does look beautiful. Everything you do always looks beautiful. That's one thing I would definitely say. And when I'm looking at websites and think, yes, you can have a beautiful site that doesn't do anything for your business, but I think it is nice to come in, especially if you're wanting to attract women to your membership. You need it to look good when they come in as well, which you definitely ticked that box of the page looks aesthetically pleasing, so that's good. Do you know whether you're getting any traffic at the moment? Do you know whether you've got anything that you're showing up for on Google? I know you've got your Google tools set up. Obviously you've done that, but do you ever go in and look at them? Or
I do go in and look at them, and usually it's very quick because there's not much to look at.
Okay.
I did have a bit of a kind of a flurry of activity way back in October now, when I published a blog that was for a knitting pattern, and that did quite well, and the search terms that I was showing up for were connected with that.
So that was for your pumpkin knitting pattern, wasn't it?
That's right, yeah. So that did do well. So I obviously got something right with that one. I need to replicate that across everything else.
Okay, so potentially that could be something we could look at. Actually, we could go to that particular page, and it was this one, wasn't it? The Mindful Munchkin Pumpkin Knitting Pattern. So let's have a little look at that page, and we can just do a quick check of this page and just look at if we've got some SEO basics in place, really. So the way that I would check this, I'm just going to accept the cookie notification there. So the way that you could check this yourself is you could definitely dive into the back end of your Google Search Console. So go and have a look at Google Search Console. If anybody hasn't got that set up and they're listening, I've got a course on my website that you can grab that. It talks you through step by step how to set it all up and how to use it and what to look for in Google Search Console. I think a lot of people have heard of Google Analytics and maybe use that a bit more than they do Google Search Console. But I think from an SEO point of view, and when you're trying to work out what Google understands about your website, Google Search Console is actually a more powerful tool and a more helpful tool, because it tells you what Google understands about your website and what search terms you're starting to show up for in the search results pages, and also where people have then clicked through to your website as well. So was this one that you did where you had kind of SEO in mind with this one, really?
Yeah, I always now since being a member in your members club, I always have SEO in the back of my mind, but sometimes I get a bit carried away and publish the blog and then try and go back and fit the SEO around it. But with this one, I think I must have been starting from the SEO perspective right from the start.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's have a little look. So I'm going to use a little Chrome plugin here. This is one of the tools I've talked about it lots on the podcast. It's called AIO SEO, all-in-one SEO, and it's a Google Chrome plugin. So you can go to the Google Chrome store and download this onto your browser. And then all you need to do is go to your page on your website, open this up, and this will tell you some key things about your website. So it's going to tell you what your page title is, what you've got your description set as, some of the heading structure of your page, whether you've actually got schema markup, structured data on your pages. So this is how to knit a Munchkin Pumpkin free knitting pattern. So can you remember what you were trying to target for on this? Can you remember? I know it's a while ago, so no worries.
I can't remember, actually, if I'm honest.
Maybe pumpkin knitting pattern, or it might have been something like that.
It would have been pumpkin and knitting pattern.
Yeah.
Whether that might have just been it, pumpkin knitting pattern, because it was October and pumpkins were seasonal and lots of people search for knitting patterns for for different things. So
So one thing I would say with that, so again, it is a free knitting pattern, so having the word free in there as well. The only thing I would maybe suggest with your page title here would just be to take the dash out between pumpkin free knitting pattern, or maybe you then switch it around to a free pumpkin knitting pattern or something like that. You could potentially do some keyword research around that. You could have a little look and see what Google is already associating. So you could go into the back end of your Google Search Console and have a little look at that. But the reason I like this plugin, this Google Chrome plugin, is it gives you a green when you've got to the right title length and description length. Google sometimes overwrites your page description. So if Google thinks this page is about something different, then you may actually find that what you've got in here isn't what actually shows up in a Google search results page. There is a way you can check that as well. So you can grab the URL. You can either do this for your whole site. So if we come into a Google search and go to the search bar at the top and type in site and then your website, I'm going to just take this last bit out for now and then hit enter. What that's going to then do is tell you the pages that Google has got in its index in relation to your website. I've got some other little plugins in here which is why you can see all these other little bits here, but this is quite a good place to start if you don't know where to start with, in terms of what Google understands about you, and you haven't got, or you don't know if you've got access to Google Search Console. Just coming into a Google search page and doing this will tell you what Google is actually showing up. So this is saying if you look at this and if you go to tools, then it will tell you how many results you've got in Google, and this is saying you've got about 7 results. Do you feel like you've got more pages than that on Google? You should have more pages than that on Google. So what I would then be looking at is I would be going into Google Search Console, making sure, the other thing you can check is you can check your sitemap and see what's on that. I know you use FEA Create, and anyone who's using a Go High Level white label website, this can sometimes be an issue where it doesn't automatically add your pages to your sitemap. The sitemap is the thing that tells Google about the back end, the structure of your website. You can again usually check this yourself if you go to your domain, yourwebaddress.com, and then type in /sitemap.xml. Not all websites call it exactly that. Okay, so there's definitely more than 7 in here. So that suggests to me that Google just hasn't indexed those additional pages. So I would go back into your Google Search Console and check. There's a couple of ways you can check this. You can check the pages that are indexed, and just that will tell you then you can actually go into the report at the top of your Google Search Console. Or you can actually, there's a little search bar at the top of your Google Search Console, which you can actually type in any page of your website. So you could look at the pages that are not showing up in these pages here that Google has about you.
Yeah, I've just looked in my search console and it says I've got 17 indexed pages.
Okay. So that is a really good indication that that there's some mismatch between what you're telling Google and what Google is actually showing. It might be that some of the pages don't have enough content on them. That could be definitely something I would be thinking about rather. This is the kind of stuff that I dive into with people with power hours. So maybe this is a time where we need to have a power hour together and we can actually dive into the back end of your Google Search Console and have a little look at this and just work out what's going on. I think often people don't know. They don't know what they don't know. They don't know where to start with all of this sort of stuff. And this is why it can feel quite confusing. But sometimes just working with somebody to actually help to join the dots together of why has Google only got 7 pages in there when I've got 300 blogs in my website, that kind of stuff. Sometimes as we get more traffic coming through to our website as well, it helps Google then understand and to be more likely to actually show our pages up really. So all that being said, the Mindful Munchkin pumpkin knitting pattern is there. And you can see here that Google is showing a different description. So the one that you've got, let me just come back into this one. Knit your own cozy autumn decoration with this free blah, 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 knitting pattern. Google is actually showing pumpkins come in so many shapes, sizes and colours. And so what it's actually doing is there you go. It's just taking the first paragraph from that page. So for whatever reason, Google has decided that this isn't a knitting pattern, or this isn't, that's not the best way to show this page. Google's bizarre sometimes with these sort of things. One thing you could do if you were trying to help Google to understand this is you could actually use this. Let me have a little look at what your heading tags are. So you've got your H1 heading it contains pumpkin knitting pattern. So that's good. You've got your keyword in there that you're trying to actually get this to show up for. It might even be a case of just mentioning knitting pattern somewhere else, free knitting pattern somewhere else. So you could mention that I would definitely have a H2 heading of the pattern or something like, or even actually having a H2 heading the same as the H1 heading, or just adding on there your pumpkin, use that Mindful Munchkin pumpkin knitting pattern. Access and actually you could even do that at the top of the page. You could have something just below this of access, like you do on a recipe site where you've got 1,000,001 adverts and things and it says access the recipe. You could have something like that in there because that helps Google to understand that's what this page is about. It also helps people who come into this page to immediately get to the content they want. So I would maybe think about doing that in there. And even within this H2 heading of what you'll need to knit the Mindful Munchkin pumpkin or something like that, that kind of stuff could definitely be helpful here. Yeah. So just adding the keywords in a little bit more, really. Adding the keywords in a little bit more in terms of the headings and things here. So you don't have any structured data. This is something we covered this last month in the Website Growth Club. So even just coming in and doing that could be something that could really help. So structured data is something that's in the back end of your website that helps the bots that are reading through your page to understand what this page is about. in a context that all of the different bots can understand. So it's things like, so if it was a local business, you could add some structured data in the back end of your website that tells Google this is a local business. If it was a YouTube video, you could add that kind of stuff in here. And from your point of view, you can add things in like your page title and your description. You can add in that this is an article, so that this is a blog ultimately. If you start getting some good reviews of this pumpkin knitting pattern as well, if people have used it, if that happens, then you could then add that kind of stuff in here as well. So it's something that is really powerful, is becoming even more important with AI search, and it doesn't need to be too difficult to do that, especially for you, because you've got access to the Schema wizard in the Website Growth Club, so you can just go in and actually have this do all of that for you, really. So that's quite a deep dive on that particular page, but it just gives you some ideas when you're working through different pages on your website. These same principles apply with that as well. So let's come back to your homepage and have a little look there. What I'm actually going to do, I'm going to fire up the Uber Suggest plugin. This is another Google Chrome plugin that if you don't have Google Search Console, if you want an easier way to quickly see if you're being associated with any kind of keywords, then you can actually do that in here. I always say to people, if you haven't got a lot going on with your keywords right now, then don't worry. That just means that you've got a place to start, basically. There's lots of potential. So it's not really showing too much going on in terms of the keywords. Let's have a look and see. So yeah, we haven't got much traffic. That's okay, because this is something obviously that you're working on. I think if I looked in my SEO tool, so nurture and nourish and nurture, it appears to be the one thing that Google is associating with your website. But we've obviously just identified a problem today, that if Google is only seeing 7 pages or only indexing 7 pages, then that could definitely be a problem. I know we've had conversations before about the fact that it's really important to be clear on your message. So whenever people come into our website pages, we want them to understand what we do, ideally who it's for as well, how it's going to make their life better, what they need to do to get it, but also what we want to show up for on Google, or what we want to be recommended for in AI, wherever, or even if people are talking about us, if we're networking and people are talking about us. Spending some time thinking about what we actually want to show up for is really helpful. And I know this isn't easy work to do. It definitely is something that is not, it's not like you click your fingers and all of a sudden you know exactly what you want to show up for. But even if you started with knitting membership, that kind of thing could potentially, and I know it's so much more than that, but you at least want to be showing up for knitting membership and then adding the other things in as well. That could be somewhere to start. And then that way you could start doing a little bit of keyword research, which we've just covered this month in the Website Growth Club. But you could start doing some keyword research around knitting membership. And there you might then find some things like knitting for mindfulness, those kind of things. You might find that naturally jumps out at you, those keywords that are easier to rank for and actually do apply to what you do. So does that help?
Yes, it does. And reminded me that I was away for the December content drop in the Growth Club, and I haven't been back and watched the video. So the Schema markup thing is all a bit of a mystery to me at the moment, but I'll definitely be putting that on my to-do list for Friday, which is my business day.
Fantastic. And the good thing is that you've already done quite a lot of the work. So when you're first working on your web pages and you're trying to work out what your target keywords are and your page titles and descriptions and things like that, then once you've done that bit, the Schema markup is actually a lot easier, because you're basically just putting that in there. And then all you'll do is you will go into the back end of FEA Create. You'll go to, so if we were talking about your main website page, you would just go in and you can use the wizard, so you can go in and it will generate the schema for you. There are other free tools that you can do this for, get to do this for you as well. But it will literally give you some code that you can copy and you can paste into the custom code section within each individual page in FEA Create. And then once you've done that and you've updated it, that sends really strong signals to Google about what those pages are about. So I think actually even just going in and doing that for your main pages could be really helpful. So yeah, definitely. And then just working out that thing of what do I want to be known for? Even if you start with those really broad terms, as I say, like knitting membership or like mindfulness membership or something like, or slow living membership, those kind of things, just start just thinking a little bit more about that. And then you can sort of implement it. It's hard to know what to do if you haven't got it all clear in your own mind, I think, really.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's really helpful. Thank you.
Good. You're welcome. So any sort of major things that leap out at you from that?
I think structuring the blog with the headings, I hadn't really considered repeating the keyword. And I'm sure you've spoken about it in a lot of the lessons in the Growth Club, but it hadn't registered that I need to be repeating my keyword in my H2 headings.
Yeah, definitely. And when you're thinking about that, thinking about the different ways you can also mention it as well, because we're Google's so much smarter now that we don't have to just keep repeating that same exact word. It's definitely worth mentioning that same thing again that you're trying to show up for. But like, I'm trying to think of a way to like another way of saying free knitting pattern. So creative project, like that's a bad example because it's not really the same. But for example, if you were a dog walking business and you were talking about your fur baby, is that Google would probably know that that's the same as your pooch or your pup, or there are related terms that you could maybe think about as well, so you're not having to just repeat the same thing over and over again. But even the word pattern, even like repeating within there what you'll need for this pattern, those kind of things could definitely help there, really. So yeah. Right. So as you are a member, Claire, I would love to know, what do you like most about being a member of the Website Growth Club?
Gosh, well, there are so many different things, really. But one of the things that I really love is the fact that it demystifies the whole subject of SEO and, just website jargon that seems kind of scary. Suddenly just becomes like, I don't know, really easy and understandable because of the way you explain everything to us. And the fact that we're doing it a little bit at a time.
Yeah.
Because a website project can feel really big and scary, but we're encouraged not to think about the whole thing and just to look at one chunk at a time. And that really helps because then it doesn't feel so overwhelming.
Good. Fantastic. That's definitely what I'm aiming for there, is that it just feels doable, feels actionable, and just takes that tech overwhelm out of the way, I think, really. So yeah, great. And it's so lovely having you as a member. I love the fact that you're there with us and such a valued part of the Growth Club. So before we finish, I would love you to give yourself another little shout out and let everybody know specifically what you do, and more importantly, where they can connect with you and find out more.
Okay, so I design knitting patterns that can be found on Ravelry, and I also am the founder of Nourish Nurture Knit and the NNK2 Tog Growth Club. That's your website. The NNK2 Tog Members Club, where we're nourishing, we're nurturing, and we're knitting together to create a more intentional, aligned, and self-compassionate way of living.
Love it. Fantastic. So if this episode has made you think about how you can get a steady stream of clients and customers coming through your website, then book a website potential discovery call. We can have a chat about where you are, where you're stuck, and how I can help you. So you can visit my website, the websitesuccesshub.com/book, to book your call today. So thank you so much for listening. Thanks, Claire, for being here, and I'll see you soon.